Hello everyone. Today we're going to take a look at part 3 of 3. 3 of 3? Yes. Yeah. Part 3 of basically the corrupted model we were doing, or diorama, or terrain, whatever you may call it. So here you can see I'm just showing you what we've done so far. So we've got a base coat done, and then we briefly done a little bit of red on the tentacles and stuff, and just a little bit of texture. There goes a piece fell off. We'll reattach that there in a moment. And this is just a base coat of what we're going to build on. So the fundamentals of where to tell us where to paint. Now, I am not a good painter. I never will say I'm a good painter. I just paint stuff to give it more character. But here we go. We're giving it a go and attempt this. So you see here I have a wet palette and then a dry brush palette that I made from cardboard and some sticks that I glued there, matchsticks, heads or bottoms that I glued there. Wait, I just removed this bit of Tyranid bit that was underneath the wet palette. So yeah, like I was saying, I have a dry brush palette that I'm using that's just made with a bit of electrical tape and a few sticks glued onto some cardboard. And then I noticed that in my wet palette I had some paint left over, so I have this dry brush, which is actually a makeup brush that I took from my partner, and then we're just going to take out the first layer of our wet palette because we're going to change that over. But instead of throwing it in the bin, we're going to mix all that together and we're going to use what paint is left there just as another base coat to give more texture. So you can see we're adding this paint that we end up coming out with, this color, just to certain areas of shadow. Well, not even shadow, but just to stand out, make certain bits stand out. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but what I'm thinking by doing this in my head is I'm going to put this paint somewhere that I want it to add more detail or more character, or I don't want to add more detail or character. So continue doing this, but go in one direction. So if you want to add more character by adding this, then do it all around. If you're trying to make it more dulled, then add this in the dulled areas, but don't mix and match, because then it just starts to look like you've splashed it everywhere. So it might look like I'm just dabbing it everywhere, but I am actually thinking about what I'm doing here. So I'm putting it on the wood bits, and that's going to create more wood texture. And then I'm sticking it in shadowed areas, and that's making the shadowed more stand out. And then I'm sticking it on, as I see in the wood, up in the beams for the roof to create the wood texture again. So we're sticking this in places that we're thinking of increasing the detail and the character in the bits instead of decreasing it. I hope this makes somewhat of sense, as I'm here trying to scrape out my it's KitbashCarnage, and you know we like to reuse stuff and like do stuff on a bit of a budget. So you can see me scraping my paints there, trying to get the little last bit. It's just some type of silver, or I say some type of silver, it's Citadel silver or whatever. I will show some of the paints, some of the names, and try to explain the best of my ability what these paints are. As you can see me put the dry brush through. This is what you have to do in order to get in certain areas. Unless you pre-paint or pre-prime all this, you have to get into certain nooks and crannies with your brush. So just do what you can, how you can. Having an airbrush can help an awful lot in these situations, but my Timu airbrush has been on the fritz the past few days, so I won't be using that. And then after adding that dry brush texture with the paint that we just done there, we're going to add some skull white or horde white, something like that it's called. I do apologize. Let me know in the comments if you want me to write all these names down of the paints and actually say the right names. This channel is not really about all knowing exactly what is what. It's a Carnage channel. It's just about having a bit of fun, doing what we all love in this hobby, and creating cool looking crazy stuff. So like I was saying, we're just adding this white just to a lot of the tentacle areas, adding it to bits that we want to then highlight with another coat of paint on top of that. So adding the white ends up bringing out the color more light, and then the same color will act kind of dark on the non-white parts, if that makes any sense. So basically, if you have a dark base coat on something, the color you then put on will look more darker, usually. And then if you have a whiter or a lighter base coat, and then you put a color on, it tends to look a little bit more lighter or less dark, and more bright, if that makes sense. You don't know how hard this is for me to say right now, but this is what we're doing. We're sticking the white over all the tentacles and the bits that we want to have more light and be brighter when we paint it in a second. So just trying to speed through this process as fast as possible. It doesn't really matter. To me personally, it doesn't matter if we get little bits of white here and there. We can fix that after the fact. The paint will dry, and the good thing about paint is you can always strip it or you can paint over it. So it's not going to be too much of a mess if we have a mix up a brush stroke anywhere. It's not a bus stroke. So don't worry too much when you're painting. At the end of the day, whatever you're doing is yours, unless you do commissions or something like that, and then yeah, you should be worried about how good your stuff is. But whatever you're doing is yours at the end of the day, and it's how you want it to be, you know. So there's no living up to anybody's standards and living up to the whole Instagram fad of, you know, I've seen some of these setups that some people use when they take pictures, and they use more lights than I have in my house. You know, they're using, you know, $300 or pound lights for one picture, and it's crazy. Like, fair play, take the picture, do that. You know, I have a wee little cake spinning top thing that I spray painted matte black, and I take some photos on. We all try to make our hobby projects or anything we create look as good as it is, because we're proud of it. But this is not, unless it is, but it's not a game. It's not a race to the finish line. It's not who can look the best. We are all here to share and enjoy each other's creativity and how we do things. And like I said, we're sharing the skills and techniques that we all have. Maybe I am doing something, I don't think I am, but maybe I do something, or I am doing something that you have never thought of before, and vice versa. And this is how the whole community of makers, hobbyists, hobby enthusiasts, and builders and all this is how we move forward as a maker community and a hobby enthusiast, not restricting people and making it so less people can enjoy it, but actually making it more widely available for everyone to enjoy, and showing people a different way to maybe do that particular hobby. Maybe you want to get into a hobby, whatever it may be, but you're not interested in the main focus of that hobby. There's lots of different parts within one hobby. The whole thing about making, kitbashing, Warhammer, all this stuff is there's different parameters, if that's the right word, in the one hobby. You can make stuff, you can kitbash stuff, you can play the game, you know, you can rewrite the game in any game. Not like, it can be your own game, you know. This is yours. That's what I'm trying to say. It is yours and yours alone. So enjoy what you do, and at the end of the day, if you enjoy what you do, that is a win in itself. So taking a bit of time off of rambling, we're finishing off putting some of this purple down. So this is what I was talking about with adding colours on top of the white base coats. So the purple, or whatever you may call it, I'll probably get the colour wrong, so I'm not going to try guess. But this colour is the main colour for all of the tentacle type of demon-esque stuff in my army. And then there is a slight blue, and that is also another colour of the demon-esque look in my army, the Mutant Bears of Fate. I've probably said it loads of times before in videos, but this is just all kind of trying to match up and tie into my army. I'm going to use this just as a display piece for displaying miniatures and models and other stuff I create, or bring it to any events and stuff and share with other people as terrain for games or stuff like that. So yeah, basically we're finishing off painting up the white bits that we need for the tentacles, and any white bits that are left over, we would then go over that with our next color. As you see, we're trying to get into all them nooks and crannies, making sure you just use whichever angles you can. Apologies, talking about angles, apologies for not being able to see anything I'm painting here apart from a black wall and a nice little lantern hanging there. Oh, here you can see a little bit of work happening now. I'm still working around the camera angles and stuff. As you can see, this is a different angle. Oh, there's something has fell. Oh, right. Apologies about this whole video. It's a little bit of shambles, but I hope you see the creating process and you can see the steps that we're doing here to get the finished product. So going back in then to all that white that we left and adding in this blue, there's probably a different name for it, but it's blue now. Rather than this blue into all different bits. Oh, by the way, I thought I'd show you this. It's been sitting in the background. This is a Chaos Sorcerer that we done a while back. We have him on a little cloud there, throwing a lightning bolt, and then you see all the gravel that's then broken up and is floating in midair. But going back to the painting, we're going to paint this blue then on the other demonesque kind of boils. That is, so right here you can see in the corner of the building, what we were going for here is there's a demon coming out of the pores or the chaos kind of decay bit that's left behind after the mutant bears of fate have. So the whole concept of this, let me go back a bit, the whole concept is this was a beautiful building, and then there was a big fight, a big battle where the mutant bears of fate, my army, has demolished all this, and as they stride past all the waste that they've destroyed or the broken buildings and all this, they leave behind little like spores and like decay and stuff, and then it begins to uproot and demons start to come out of it, tentacles start to come out of it, they're rising from the ground. It all starts from the ground, so that's why it's coming from downwards and then going upwards, or from the bottom and going up to the top. So we're just painting this part blue, and then the tentacles that's the blue is like the decay that they leave behind, and the tentacles, the purple or the pink or whatever you may call it, is the demon that's coming out of the actual thing itself. How many times did we say tentacles? We should have a tentacle counter, but I'm not going to do that to you. And by you, I mean me in the editing process. So like I said previous, we're not being too careful here, as careful as we can, but the whole concept of the army allows us to be, and the channel in general allows us to be a little bit chaotic, a little bit of carnage here and there. You know, I am not all about pitch perfect or picture perfect, or nothing has to be perfection. I enjoy what I'm doing. I think this looks good, and I hope you guys too. At the end of the day, I know it's your idea, my idea. It's yours, but leave stuff in the comments. Let me know. Do you like this? Do you like the outcome? Would you have preferred this all to have been in one episode instead of broken up? I really respect and listen to each and every one of your comments, and thank you as well for suggestions about videos. Stay tuned for upcoming videos on all the suggestions that you've made. I haven't forgot about you guys. I do remember and write all these down. So just finishing off the last few bits here, and then we're going to move off to the next step of the process. Thankfully these paints that were quick drying, I didn't, apart from these bits here, because I think these are like an oil-based paint, or correct me if I'm wrong. I'm more than likely I am wrong, but I really apologize about these camera angles, everyone. It's not really the best. Never ask me to be like your wedding photographer or anything like that, or take any picture in general, or do any type of filming or anything like that, because apparently I need to get better at this. Yeah, I'm not giving myself a hard time, to be honest. I'm only kidding around. Like, you know, we all learn, and I will get better at this, you know. With everything, it just takes practice. But one thing that does not take practice, and that is having fun and enjoying yourself. And this project, I actually did enjoy myself an awful lot here. As you can probably tell with how much paint is on my hands. So we're just getting some of that fine detail in now, using a copperish kind of color here. Everyone who is, or anyone who is into Warhammer knows what this color is, but apart from me apparently, but we're using this just to do some finer details on some 3D printed boxes we done. I just print these out in sets of like 50 and just keep them around. One print does 50 of them. We just keep these in a little box, just kept around. We keep our boxes in a box. And these are good just to add some detail onto some dioramas or terrain. And then using the same paint, we're going onto the wood, creating some wood grain strokes, or what looks like is supposed to act like wood grain strokes. Not even wood grain strokes, but just adding that extra bit of detail and texture to the wood panels itself, or what's meant to look like it. These little finer bits here and there, like even if you can see that popsicle stick, the little cuts that's out of it, I've just put the paintbrush in them little divots, and that has created that small little variation of color, which adds all to the outcome of the finished product. So, well, this is what we have so far. It's looking not too bad. There's some bits here and there that I want to add to it. It will just increase the whole outcome. Adding little bits of paint to different blocks of the walls. Maybe a flame will add to the little torch. And just a few white brush strokes in amongst the whole project, giving some highlights on the finished outcome. Apologies, can't say that at all. So here you can see the bits of white we've added, just here and there, adding some highlights. A little bit of white starting off, that making our flame on the torch, and then we've done the different bricks then on the outside. You can barely tell the different bricks, but it's that slight variation that we're looking for. Building colour upon colour, and building these layers. It's one thing I have learned about painting. As I said, I would not consider myself a really good painter, or a good painter at that at all. I just do what I do and try my best. But adding layers to stuff is the best way about going about a project. It's trying to do everything in one go isn't really the best way. Adding layers and layers and building up the process tends to be the best and fastest way around painting in general, that I personally have found. Because rushing into things when it comes to painting, you can then realize that you might have to take something off, and you know, it's not as easy to hide your crimes. You can paint over stuff, but if that stuff is the whole thing, you're going to have to strip it and repaint it. So try to add layers and layers, and think out have in your mind's eye what the finished look wants to be. So here we're just adding little bits of details by dipping our paintbrush into some watered down red color, or horde red or something like that. It's called corn red maybe, I don't know. But we're just flicking then the red dots around for blood splatters, and then we're getting some green stuff floor colors, and we're using this. I like to use this for flames, because not only does it add a quick and easy flame, but you can then use a black light, or another black light adds this little secret kind of thing to your project, or your mini, or whatever you're doing. My whole army, the Mutant Bears of Fate, the whole army, every single unit has some type of floor paint in it. So under blacklight, my whole army lights up. It's a totally different army under blacklight. Stay tuned for seeing progress pictures and all of that. So this is basically what we've done so far. Paint wise, you can see our little torch and everything. And now it's moving on to adding the details with some texture, some little turfs, and our mixture of, we love this little mixture of coloured sand and some foliage and all that. We will use this to create the grass that's growing up along the cracks and in between crevices, and this gives a look of time passing. So the earth has taken over this these ruins, and time has actually passed, and that's why it's overgrown. So never skip out on adding little bits like this. It adds a very good texture, and not only a texture to the model or the terrain itself, but a good aesthetic and fine details that people tend to leave out is putting in bits of foliage and stuff to basically give the illusion of time passing. So using PVA glue to put into the places you want to put this sprinkled mix of foliage you've put on. Always make sure to tap the excess into a box or some sort. And then we're just going to start moving your PVA glue around where you want the mix that you're using of foliage, or the whatever you're using, and then sprinkling on that. And as you can see, we've just got a box here that we're just using to, so the stuff doesn't go everywhere. Yes, it is a KitbashCarnage, but we're not Kitbash stupid. So we're doing this anywhere we think that the foliage or the nature would have taken over, and then sticking a little tufts, whatever you may call it, but we're sticking them all around in little nooks and crannies to again add to this whole aesthetic. And this is what we have all together. This is the finished outcome. I have a few minor bits I'm going to add to it, but this is basically what we have. So I really appreciate everyone for staying for this long. We have like a 20-minute video, so thank you very much for staying this long, and I hope you like the finished outcome. And don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and of course a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know any ideas again. And don't forget to check out my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and my Discord. Link in the description for all them. Catch you all in the next one, and have an amazing day.